Hey everyone, I'm back with another example video. As promised, we'll be looking at the INFP personality type again because the first one I made was sort of lacking on visuals. So thank you to all those INFPs that have stuck around since the beginning of my channel. It means a lot. And yeah, this analysis will be on Johnny Depp, and he'll be discussing his character role of Edward Scissorhands and his relationship with Tim Burton as a director. So hope you enjoy.
With him. Tim Burton is probably the same kind of breed as you are. He does things that are just amazing in creating these movies and telling these stories. How do you two work together, and especially how did it come about with Edward Scissorhands? And was it sort of love at first sight between you and Tim?
I don't know. It was weird. It was strange. I flew to Los Angeles to have a meeting. Reluctantly flew to Los Angeles to have a meeting with Tim because I thought there was no way in the world that he was gonna give me that gig. You know, at the time I was on a TV show that I was desperately trying to get fired off of, and they weren't interested in firing me for some reason. And I did far worse stuff on the television show that I've ever done for any character. I mean, you know.
So Johnny's a good representation of the NFs, the idealists. People that, generally speaking, of course, are very mellow, understanding, philosophical, high emotional intelligence, very empathetic, very good at reading people. And they can be inviting, nurturing, approachable, but at the same time, they're always going to have this air of mystery around them where they can be very hard to get to know, like on a deep level. And as far as INFPs, the dreamer archetype, FI in the first slot, the dominant function, they'll usually have a very authentic vibe, comes out in the way that they dress and speak, very introspective, very reserved. And like I said before, since it's an introverted function, it can be a bit harder to spot, but usually FI DOMs will have these expressive, vibrant, doe-like eyes.
You show up on set with a George Washington wig and a rubber band tied around the back of your tongue, so you have a speech impairment as your character. So I started using, like, you know, character choice and saying, well, no, wait a minute now, you can't. You hired me to play this part. You can't mess around with my character choices. That's just not going to happen. Still, they didn't fire me. So I met with Tim, thinking this is a waste of time, and it's heartbreaking because I'd read the screenplay to Edward, and literally the thing touched me deeply. I mean, like, you're reading this thing, like, tears pouring out of your eyes. And I knew the character I just knew the character. I knew what he needed to be, and
It's hard to say that Johnny's not being very genuine and authentic here, right? Self-expression seems to come very naturally to him, as is the case for most INFPs and high FI users. So what he said is very important because once any sort of FI user has been given a creative outlet to work with, you just need to let them do their own thing. They'll know what to do with it. FI, it's kind of like this deep well of creativity, and FI users can just reach down and draw forth different characters, different aspects of themselves through deep emotion and introspection. In the moment that's controlled or restricted, the authenticity becomes, as Sylvia Plath said, ossified.
so I met with Tim at this coffee shop. I didn't know what he looked like, so the joint was packed, you know, and I'm looking around, and then I see this skinny, fidgety dude with like sprigs of hair sticking out all over the place, and he was kind of like, you know, playing with spoons and drinking coffee and kind of, you know, drawing, and then, you know, and I went, oh yeah, that's him. And that's the guy.
So yeah, FI and NE working together, very strong pattern recognition, especially when it comes to the topic of people and seeing the way they operate, understanding them on a very intuitive, emotional level. Even when there's a lot of objective, even chaotic information and data floating around.
And Edward was sort of based on, well, newborns and toddlers who sort of see things for the first time, and who can find the beauty or the fascination with, like, uh, resin grapes, or that, or everything's new, remote control. Wow. Um, and a dog that I'd had, who was just the he was the dog that I had was unconditional love, you know, even even if you reprimand them or scold them, and they sort of slither away into a corner, the second you call them back, eyes are filled with love, So that dog became sort of, yeah, my basis for the character. And
Once INFPs reach adulthood, so around the ages of 18 to 20, the third slot usually becomes very strong, preferred part of the conscious, and they can begin to recall very vivid memories easily, and use those detailed subjective impressions of what one has experienced in order to not only come to a better understanding of themselves, but even to use it more towards creative outlets.
uh, and I think it was the first time that Tim or the screenwriter Carol Ann Thompson had ever had an actor start cutting out like 85% of the dialogue. They were like, actors always want to speak more. It seemed to me that Edward had his vocabulary would be limited, certainly, but limited to in a kind of an innocent way. Like, instead of, I believe Diane Wiest when she comes and finds me in the castle, she asks me where my father is, and the line is written was, he's dead, or he died. And I thought that was maybe too knowing of Edward. So I changed it to, he didn't wake up, which I think opens up a whole other area of purity or innocence to the character, because death it doesn't exist in his mind. He didn't wake up. I don't know why. So and Tim was very patient, because I think even the first couple of weeks of Edward, I think everyone was sort of flipping out. Even Tim was nervous.
So again, even though the script was written in a specific way, he took the character and adapted it. That's what FI does. It takes and it authenticates. And even though the cast was nervous, the character still came out as more genuine. And that's why Johnny Depp is such a good actor. It's because he owns the roles that he plays. They become his in a sense. And a lot of great artists have this ability to kind of put themselves in their own work. Even with characters like Jack Sparrow, that's his role. It can't really be replicated by anyone else because it's just not the same. And Johnny's quoted with saying, Jack Sparrow is like a cross between Keith Richards and Pepe Le Pew. Again, taking two different concepts and merging them together to form something new and innovative. And that's why I relate NE to conceptual blending or reasoning.
But yeah, no, it seemed to work out.
You've done, I think, altogether 9 movies now, you and Tim?
I think so, yeah.
9 movies.
Yeah,
Starting with Edward Scissorhands. So, how would you describe, after all these movies, your working relationship and your friendship? Is it more of friendship and you work with a friend than
Oh yeah.
a working relationship? And how
It's
I mean, is it completely trusting from his side, and does he let you run freely?
Yeah, he does. I mean, he that's the whole thing between the most important thing between a director and an actor is the element of trust. You know that you know the guy trusts you, or the person trusts you. You know that you can. It's set up in such a way that you can try anything. Some things maybe you might fail, which is all right, you know. But in that trying things, you might just find something that hasn't been it's not prefab housing, or it's not, you know, pre-chewed food. It's something that's fresh and happens in the moment, you know.
Sorry for the dramatic freeze frame here, but this is a good example of any extroverted intuition, because it likes to be in the moment and experiment with its environment, with its surrounding, look for the different meanings of things, look through the different possibilities of a thing or an idea, and it does so through an objective lens. It's always looking for that pop, that spark, anything that can lead to a new, novel, innovative idea or understanding.
So yeah, Tim, our relationship, obviously as friends and brothers, has solidified, you know, hugely over the years. It's been, Christ, yeah, we did Sit Your Hands in '90, you know, and there was, and from the beginning there was a shorthand, because Tim has a bit of a he has a bit of a stammer, you know. I have a bit of a stammer, so we developed this weird shorthand that I've had like, you know, grips or you know, electricians on the set come up to me and say, "I just watched you and Tim. I listened to your conversation over the last 15 minutes. Didn't understand a word that you said to each other." And in the same sense, his direction to me is to this day is still the same. It's like, you know, he'll just look at me and go, you know, and I get it, you know. He'll do something like, what if, you know, like when he, so that's there, right? And then, you know, and I'll go, yeah, of course, yeah, sure, yeah, I got you. And it's still that way to this day, you know.
Okay guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thanks for watching.